Welcome to Coffee Club. I am your host, Paul Chappell, and today we are discussing the 7 tips for improving your YouTube channel. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you've already done a couple videos, or maybe you've been at it for a long time and just want to see how I do things. The first tip I want to cover, and this is very important, could have easily been number 1, is develop a good workflow. And what that means is when you come into your studio and sit down, you want to be working with a well-oiled machine. You don't want to have to take too much time setting things up. That's why I have recommended in some of my other videos that you get your own studio. You reserve a room in your house if you have a house, and you use that room every week when you shoot your show, because it's going to be important for you not to have to set up over and over again like I did when I started. When I started, I was shooting a show in my den. I had to move furniture. I had to install lights, cameras, all that stuff. And sometimes my kids would come rampaging through the room, interrupting my shows. So I had to make sure everybody knew when I was shooting. And to do that, you have to make a schedule. And to keep a schedule, you have to have a routine. How do you stick to a routine? Well, I'm about to tell you. You stick to a routine by having a checklist. In fact, I got a checklist right here I used to use for the Magic Hour talk show. Let's go through it a little bit. The first thing I had on my list, oddly enough, is set AC. Now, what's that about? Well, when you do these shows and you get the proper lights that I referred to in one of my last videos, your studio will be very, very hot. And that's one of the things you want to be concerned with right away. You want to set your AC so that by the time you start your show, after you've done everything else on the checklist, you'll have a nice flow of air coming into your room and you won't be sweating during the broadcast, because anything that takes your mind off of what you're doing while you're broadcasting your show is dangerous. As you can see in my next item on the checklist, it says prepare notes. Now, I found that it's better for me not to try to memorize stuff or read off a teleprompter. It's better that I had notes prepared. So I would have my notes ready. That's another thing I would do. Appearance check. Now, this is very, very important. Appearance check is basically me going to a mirror in my bathroom, checking my wardrobe, make sure I don't have too much lint on my shirt, all my buttons are nice and buttoned. I would make sure I had no boogers in my nose and I was well shaved, no hair sticking out from under my cap. In fact, one time I did a show and my zipper was unzipped. And now that's before I had a desk to cover everything up. I had to shoot that show totally over again because my zipper was open the whole time. So that's what I mean by appearance check. And then, of course, I had to get coffee. I would actually start shows sometimes without my coffee, and I cannot do a show without coffee or at least something to drink. And then, of course, I had my light check. Now, the old lights I used to use, they actually had 2 buttons that you had to activate both sides of the lights. And if you didn't do that, you would have video that was underexposed, and you don't want that, trust me. And then, of course, I would have the sound check, which is probably the most important thing on this list. And that just entails me actually running my sound equipment and checking to see that all the levels are right. When I started, I would actually use a lavalier mics, and sometimes they were not connected all the way to my iPad, which is what I was using to record my audio in the beginning. And I would open up my iPad and no sound. So these days I actually record, and I just started doing this, I actually record with 2 mics. I got this main mic, which is probably what I use for this broadcast, and I got this smaller little Rode mic that I have hooked up over here to my iPad, and I'm recording audio. So that's just like a backup, because bad sound is almost impossible to fix in post-production. You want to avoid that at all costs. And of course, next I got camera check. Camera check is just making sure I got my camera set for the right color temperature. I've done my white balance, and this is stuff I'll cover in a future episode. White balance, focus. You want to check your focus. You want to make sure that your cameras are positioned right, because they might be a little bit askew. So all of that. So that's the workflow. Number 6, know your subject. I can't stress this enough. There are 2 reasons that people go to YouTube. The first is, of course, entertainment. The other reason people come to YouTube is for information, whether they're trying to learn how to make a doghouse or cook a steak or get a review for a movie. They're coming for information. If they pick your show, they expect you to know what you're talking about. I can't even tell you how many times when I started where I would pause in the show because I didn't know the director of whatever movie I was reviewing, or I didn't know the actors in the movie. You know, I learned very quickly, have that information in front of you. That's where this studio kind of helps me out. Usually when I do a review, I have the IMDb page of that movie on my screen. I can refer to the directors, and I will do some research about that director. If I don't know the director, if it's not Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or somebody like that, chances are I'm not going to be familiar with their body of work. So what I will do is I will research that director. I will research that actor I've never heard of. So you want to know your subject. Research is crucial for you to sell your authority on anything you're talking about in your YouTube channel. Number 5, get to the point. This is the cold hard reality of YouTube. People love short videos. They don't come to YouTube usually to watch a movie. Most people come to watch clips, to watch some little funny meme video, to watch a music video. They're not here for long form content. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. People like Joe Rogan do 3-hour shows and they do fine with that. But you'll also notice that Joe Rogan has a separate channel from his long form channel called the Joe Rogan Experience Clips. And that's just for people who wants to get their content in clips under 10 minutes. What I would say when you're editing your products, you need to get to the point. You need to cut out tangents. You need to be really brutal when you do your edit. I used to be of the opinion that everything I said was gold and I had to save everything, but that's really not the case. The more you watch your shows over and over again, you need to do this. Watch your shows. See where you can improve. And you will see a lot of rambling when you first start. You just need to get to the point. Number 4 is keep your open credits short. Have you ever noticed when you watch a show on Netflix that they have a button where you can skip over the opening credits? Why is that? Well, it's for the simple reason most people only want to see opening credits one time. So if you're wasting a lot of time and money doing the open credit, it's a waste of money. You'll notice on all my shows, the banner for my show shows for about 5 seconds. Usually you can hear my voice speaking before the credits even finish, and I'm on to whatever my topic is. That's what you want to do every time. People do not want to watch opening credits. I know it's really exciting to see that grand title sequence that you painstakingly design appear before each show, but the novelty wears off really fast, so make it shorter. Number 3, utilize end screens effectively. Now you're probably already aware of this, but let me just explain end screens in case you don't already know. End screens are what you can put up at the end of your video, directing people to another video on your channel. And this is crucial because the number 1 priority you should have when you're making your YouTube channel is to keep people watching your videos. You want them to binge your channel. YouTube, they base their recommends on how bingeable your channel is. So make sure you have another show that's related to the content of the current show that your viewers are watching in those end screens. Number 2, always be shooting. And what I mean by that is you want to show, not tell. Let me explain that a little bit better. You're going on vacation next week. Take your camera with you. You never know when you'll see something that you might show on your channel. Furthermore, When I was in film school, I took a writing class, and one of those things you learn in writing class is to show, not tell. That means if you're telling a story, like I'm telling a story now, let's say I went to Walmart and I looked at cameras. Now I could talk about going to Walmart and looking at cameras and telling you what they look like, but it's a lot better if you can actually see it, as I'm doing right now. You see how much more effective that is, that you actually see me at Walmart looking at cameras? Show, don't tell. And it just so happens I have the tripod I use. Now the great thing about this tripod is that you can pretty much flex these legs on this tripod any way you need to set up in any situation. You know, if you need to make it low to the ground or whatever. And I will have a link to this down in the description. And as you can see, I have a little adapter up here for my phone. I'm ready to rock. So I encourage you, get a tripod, use your smartphone, and you will always have footage to use when the opportunity arises. Number 1, begin each video with a great hook. Now what I mean by that is, here's a very simple example of what I'm talking about. You have a doghouse channel where you build doghouses for a living, okay? One of the things you would do when you start your video was show the end result of what you're going to do in the video, which is, in this case, a doghouse. You show the doghouse completed, and then you would probably show your credits, and then you would start your doghouse. That's what I mean by a great hook. I used to watch this show called House MD, and in the first few minutes of the episode, they would show who was going to be the main patient throughout the episode. They were getting some kind of medical crisis, and then you would be tempted to watch the rest of the episode. That's a great hook. Find something very entertaining in your video. Show the setup for that entertaining part of your video, but don't show the conclusion, because the theory here is that you want them to watch the video till they get to that point and they get to see the rest of whatever you showed in that opening. So that's what I mean by open with a great hook. But that's it. If you do all those things, I will probably be doing another video because there's so much more tips I can give you. But I just wanted to keep this video short, just give you a few things to work on, and then we'll move on to those other things. So yeah, go out there and improve. I'm rooting for you. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like and share this video. And I will see you when I see you. Thanks for watching.